Here's the video of a little talk I gave about Moses, Mount Sinai, sonic booms, morality, ethics, and the Trinity. Yeah, go figure how you tie those all together, but I did it. Now, I just turned on the video camera on my iPod and clipped it to the clipboard that I was using, thinking, the video will be useless, but at least I can pull the audio off of it. But I don't know, as long as you're not prone to motion sickness, I suppose, it's good enough video to watch. And I hope it's elucidating. Also, every now and then you'll hear people yelling out, "Bike! Bike!" Because we took a hike through the foothills, and along the way we would stop and have teachings. Different people would take turns. And of course, we're right on the trail, so every now and then a mountain biker would come by, and we would all make sure to get out of their way. So enjoy. Okay, I wish I could read you about 7 entire chapters, because as was rightly noted, a lot happened at Sinai, a lot. So especially you young kids, don't think just because you watched a cartoon movie or a live action movie, oh, I know the story, yeah, I know it. Believe me, nada que ver, as they say. It has nothing to do with it. So I'm going to read I'm going to glean, I'm just going to pull certain text from certain chapters, and I want you to focus on 4 main things. One is the phenomenon, okay? Because there's going to be clouds, there's going to be fire, there's going to be sounds. I want you to focus on that. 2 is, as we said, the various events. Moses going up and down, what he's doing, what's going on. Then that during those events, sometimes Moses comes back and seems to orally repeat the law. Sometimes he's writing things down at the camp. Sometimes he's writing things down up at the mountain. Things happen, different things. And the 4th is the premise upon which the Lord establishes the covenant and the commandments. Premise meaning God doesn't just show up and say, "Hey guys, listen, do what I say." But he gives reasons why we are to do what he says, okay? So let's start in the beginning by noting that they came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in front of the mountain. Moses went up to God, and the Lord called him from the mountain, saying, "Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob and tell the sons of Israel, you yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself." So that's one of the main premises. And note that Exodus 12:12 says, "Against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord." So that's one main premise. Why? Because I went up against the gods of Egypt and I defeated them and I brought you out. I freed you, okay? Now then, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my commandments, then you shall be my own possession among all the peoples of the earth. Amongst all the peoples, for the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the sons of Israel. Now note that 1 Peter 2:9 states of believers who have been grafted in, "You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." So Moses came and called the elders of the people and set before them all the words which the Lord had commanded him. And this is key for many reasons, okay? All the people answered together and said, "All the words the Lord has spoken we will do." Yeah, right. But, the point is they agreed, and that's important. And Moses brought back the words of the Lord to the people. The Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I am come to you in a thick cloud." And thank the Lord for giving me that prop today. So that the people... so that the people may hear when I speak with you, and may also believe in you forever. Then Moses told the words of the people to the Lord. So he's relaying back what they had agreed to say. The Lord also said to Moses, "Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their garments, and let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down to Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people." Resurrection, anybody? Third day, all right? "You shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, 'Beware that you not go up the mountain or touch the border of it.'" So it came about that on the third day, when it was morning, just like Jesus' resurrection, that there were thunder and lightning and a thick cloud upon the mountain, and a very loud trumpet sound, so that all the people who were in camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Sinai was all in smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked violently. When the sound of the trumpet grew louder, Moses spoke, and the Lord answered him with thunder. And the word there is literally just a sound. The Lord came down on Sinai to the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Go down, warn the people, so that they may not break through to the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. Also, let the priests who come near to the Lord consecrate themselves." All right? You don't just sort of show up, "Hey, Lord, how you doing?" You have to be prepared, and we know that the ultimate preparation is to be forgiven through Christ's sacrifice, right? Now Mount Sinai was all... Then the Lord said to him, "Go down and come up again, you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priest and the people break through to come up to the Lord." So Moses went down to the people and told them. So you see all these interactions. First the priest came up. This time they weren't supposed to, but Aaron was. Different peoples, different times. And that was from Exodus 19. Now we're going to go to Exodus 24. Moses came and recounted to the people all the words of the Lord and all the ordinances, and all the people answered with one voice and said, "All the words which the Lord has spoken we will do." Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. He took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people, and they said, "All the words that the Lord has spoken we will do. We will be obedient." Now the Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me to the mountain and remain there, and I will give you stone tablets with the law and the commandments which I have written for their instruction." So Moses arose with Joshua, this time, his servant, and Moses went up to the mountain of God. But to the elders he said, "Wait here for us until we return to you." So he's gone up and down, received all this instruction. Now we're finally getting to the commandments. All right, so Moses received a lot of instruction as he would go up and down at different times. Then Moses went up the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. And the glory of the Lord rested on the Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the seventh day, Sabbath, anybody? He called to Moses from the midst of the cloud, and the eyes of the sons of Israel, the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a consuming fire on top of the mountain. Moses entered the midst of the cloud as he went up to the mountain, and Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, so this is the portion with which we're more familiar, right? With Moses getting the commandments, smashing the tablets, yada, yada, yada. And so Exodus 24 states, "I will give you the stone tablets with the law and the commandments which I have written for their instruction." So God actually gives them the tablets, and God has written on those. Okay? Exodus 32 notes that Moses turned and went from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, tablets which were written on both sides. They were written on one side and the other. The tablets were the tablets were God's work, and the writing was okay, hold on. It's that Jewish DNA. I'm sorry, guys. It just, man. Whew. The tablets were God's work, and the writing was God's writing engraved on the stones. Okay. Exodus 34. Now the Lord said to Moses, cut out for yourself 2 stone tablets like the former ones, right after he smashed them, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the former tablets which you shattered. So God now this time Moses has to cut out the stone, but God's going to write on them. And by the way, I can't imagine what people would do today if we saw those tablets. All these like handwriting analysts, you know. That to me, I just thought about that, and it'd be a riot to hear what they have to say. Oh, you know, God, he's got these characteristics and whatever. So be ready by morning and come up in the morning to Mount Sinai and present yourself there to me at the top of the mountain. And within that chapter, the Lord says, you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. The first offspring from every womb belongs to me. You shall work 6 days, but on the 7th day you shall rest. You shall celebrate the Feast of Weeks. 3 times a year all your males are to appear before the Lord God. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor is the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover to be left over until morning. You shall bring the very first of the first fruit of your soil into the house of your Lord. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. And I wanted to read those specifically because some people are under the misconception that at this point God gives a different set of 10 commandments and those are it. But that's just not the case, because he was going to write down the commandments he already gave him, but these are just further instructions, okay? And that'll come up again in a second. Then the Lord said to Moses, write down these words. So now it's something Moses has to write down. For in accordance with these words have I made my covenant with you and with Israel. So he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He did not eat bread or drink water, and he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. Okay, so here's what's important. Between Exodus 24 and 31, there's given instructions about the sanctuary, the furnishings, the altar, the implements, the priest's garments, the sacrifices, the anointing oil, all kinds of extremely detailed instructions. So that's what's going on at Sinai. Why does he have to bring the priest up at some point? Well, because they were receiving the instructions for their job function, okay? Why bring Aaron? I mean, again, everybody is being given sets of instructions, and they're all detailed. That's what's going on throughout that entire time, with the 10 Commandments just being a portion of that, okay? It came about when Moses was coming down from Mount Sinai, and the 2 tablets of the testimony were in Moses' hands as he was coming down from the mountain, that Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone because of his speaking with him. So when Aaron and all the sons of Israel saw Moses, behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. Then Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned to him, and Moses spoke to them. Afterwards, all the sons of Israel came near, and he commanded them to do everything that the Lord had spoken to him on Mount Sinai. When Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. But whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak to him, he would take off the veil until he came out. And whenever he came out and spoke to the sons of Israel, when he had what he had been commanded, the sons of Israel would see the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face shone, so Moses would replace the veil over his face until he went on to speak with him. So there was something about him being in God's presence that literally changed him physically. And there was a manifestation of that literally coming off of his face. And note that 2 Corinthians 3 tells us about the confidence we have through Christ towards God. Not that we are adequate in ourselves to consider anything as coming from ourselves, but our adequacy is from God, who also made us adequate as servants of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives. But if the ministry of death in letter, engraved on stone, came with glory, so that the sons of Israel could not look intently at the face of Moses because of the glory of his face, fading as it was, how will the ministry of the Spirit fail to be even more with glory? For if the ministry of condemnation has glory, much more does the ministry of righteousness abound in glory. For indeed, what had glory in this case has no glory, because the glory that it surpasses it. For if that which fades away was with glory, much more that which remains is in glory. Therefore, having such hope, we use great boldness in our speech, and are not like Moses, who put a veil over his face, so that the sons of Israel would not look intently at the end of what was fading away. But their minds were hardened, for until this day, at the reading of the Old Covenant, the same veil remains unlifted, because it is removed in Christ. But to this day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their heart. But whenever a person turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just as from the Lord the Spirit. Okay, I want you to start passing this around if you would. Because, I lived in Israel for 2 months, December of 88 to January of 89. And when I climbed up Mount Masada, I heard something I'd never heard before and have never heard since, but it was not the word of the Lord. It was actually a sonic boom. Okay? Now, sonic booms, they've really been around for as long as bullwhips have been around. You know, when you crack a whip, pow, that sound it makes is actually a sonic boom. Sonic boom means that it has broken the sound barrier. So it's something moving faster than the speed of sound, okay? So what I heard up on Masada was a jet plane go by and boom! I mean, this huge explosion. And so I brought some images of airplanes breaking that sound barrier. And what you're going to notice is that there's a manifestation. There's a manifestation of sound, and there's a manifestation of vapor-like clouds. And I think it's fascinating that it took millennia, it took centuries for modern science to finally get to the point where we could look at a sonic boom and say, oh, that's what was going on at Sinai. The Lord was traversing dimensions, okay? The Lord was opening this, nowadays I think a popular term is portal, right? The Lord was opening a way between one dimension and the other, and that caused manifestations of clouds and sounds. And when I thought about the sonic boom, I thought it just blew my mind to think that that's what we're seeing. Modern science has shown us that these manifestations come about when you're traversing, in a manner of speaking, from one dimension to the other one, when you break through that barrier. And that's what was going on at Sinai, is the barrier was being broken, and all these manifestations were going on from that event. So when you look at those pictures, think about that. Think about that opening and God coming through and what would happen. Particularly if it wasn't like 1 second like a jet, but if it remained open and all this stuff was coming through. All right, let's get to the commandments specifically. First, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before or besides me. Okay? How is that a commandment? That's actually the premise. It's the foundation. It's the basis. It's the point from which God says, this is why you should. Why? Because I liberated you. I freed you. I went up a gang of gods from Egypt. I defeated them. I freed you. So that's why you should have me and no one else. Okay, and that is absolutely essential to understand. So what's the next commandment? Idol, I would say. Okay, let me just mention a misconception that just comes out of certain translations. There is no biblical commandment against making an image. In fact, there are many biblical commandments to make images. Think about the tabernacle, the cherubim on the ark, all right, the menorah that was in the figure of an almond tree. There were all kinds of images that they were commanded to make. But the point is to not make them in order to worship them. That's why idol is a much better term, because it hits you right away. So listen, the verse tells it to you. You shall not make for yourself an idol or graven image in any likeness of what is in the heaven above or the earth beneath or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. Okay, so that's the difference. I must attest to you, I worked at a certain church that had all these statues and stuff, and I was helping out in the sanctuary one time, and they told me, oh, just grab that vase of flowers and set it before the statue of Mary over there. And I was like, I can't do that. No, just get it and just put it in front of her. I said, my people chose death over honoring an image. I can't do that. And I just wouldn't. So, having an image, that's one thing. Honoring it, that's another. And by the way, I would say that the only image you really cannot make, even if you're not going to worship it, is an image of God himself. Because no image can possibly contain him. All right, that's very important. And, come on, train of thought. Back in the station.
First commandment.
No, not quite yet. Oh, okay. An idol is not just something you carve and you set up, by the way. You know those little devices everyone's on all day long? That could be your idol. That could be your idol. You ever having a perfectly pleasant conversation with a human being that's right in front of you, and their little device makes a sound and it's like, shh. That's an idol. You know the New Testament says to some people, their belly is an idol. Oh. Okay? Anything can be an idol, guys. Anything that you serve and worship up above and beyond God. And that's very important. Okay, next. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath for the Lord your God, and in it you shall do no work. You, or your son, or your daughter, or your male or female servants, or your cattle, or the sojourner who stays with you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and the sea and all that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and kept it holy. Okay, I'm going to ask you all a favor. Please, I implore you, don't ever refer to a Saturday Sabbath, because there was never any such thing. It doesn't exist. Saturday refers to a solar calendar that goes midnight to midnight. Sabbath is on the seventh day, which is a lunar calendar that runs sundown to sundown. Therefore, the Sabbath is Friday starting at sundown to Saturday ending at sundown. So don't say Saturday Sabbath. It never existed. Say Seventh-day Sabbath. So that meaning, for instance, Saturday night is no longer the Sabbath, okay? All right. Oh, and while we're at it, don't ever refer to a Jewish rabbi. Jewish rabbi as opposed to what? A Gentile rabbi? Come on! Jewish rabbi. Well, yeah. All right, I had to get that out there. Okay. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord shall give you. That's coming up. Now, this one is important. You shall not commit crime. Okay, here's the point. I don't care if your translation says kill or murder. The point is, word is defined by the context. And the context of the Bible is that there's an ethical way to take somebody's life and an unethical way to take somebody's life. For example, if you break in my house and you attack my family, and in trying to stop you, I take your life, that is legal and that is ethical and that is okay. But if I'm the one breaking into your house to attack your family, and I take your life, then that is illegal and it is unethical. Okay, so the first one, self-defense, that would be killing. The second one would be murder. And that's the point. It's easy to get confused on that. When people are just throwing words out, you got to think about the definition. The point isn't not to take any life ever. It's do not murder. Okay, you shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, or shall covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, or his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Now, all the people perceived the thunder and lightning flash and the sound of the trumpets on the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood at a distance. Then they said to Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But let not God speak to us, or we will die." Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid, for God has come in order to test you, and in order that the fear of him may remain with you, so that you may not sin." And by the way, I think there's a difference between fear and being afraid. So the people stood at a distance while Moses approached the thick cloud where God was. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Thus shall you say to the sons of Israel, you yourselves have seen that I have spoken to you from heaven. You shall not make other gods besides me, gods of silver, gods of gold, you shall not make for yourselves." Okay, now a few key points and we're done, okay? In Jeremiah 31:33 it says, "I will put my law within them, and on their heart I will write it." And in Romans 21:15 it says, the work of the Lord, the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience bearing witness, and their thoughts alternately accusing or else defending them. This is why we shouldn't think that when the Ten Commandments were given, people suddenly said, oh, I'm not supposed to murder? Oops, boy, I didn't know that before. I mean, Cain was condemned because what? He committed murder. In fact, why did Moses leave Egypt? He committed murder. People knew that was wrong because within their hearts and their conscience told them that, because that's where God's law is ultimately written. But now, have you ever burped and someone looks at you like it's rude and you say, hey, in some cultures that's considered a compliment. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. So now if God's law is written in our hearts, why is it a fact that from different cultures and different times of history, there's different morals? How could that be, right? Hey, we consider that a compliment. We consider that as being rude. How could that be if God's law is written in our hearts? Well, as I'm driving along, I can see the speed limit written right there on the sign. But, right? It doesn't mean I have to keep it, even though I know it. It's written right there. It's obvious. There it is, in black and white. That doesn't mean I can't break it. And also, they differ because of what 1 Timothy 4:2 says, that we can sear our own conscience as with a branding iron. So if you live a life where you're constantly going against your consciousness, God's law written on your heart, it's like you're hitting it with something super hot and burning it to the point where it doesn't talk to you anymore. That's why you eventually, if you keep doing wrong things, you start feeling like it's no big deal. All right? You keep telling God to shut up, and unfortunately, He will listen and give you over to whatever it is that you're doing. So the best thing is to repent. Now, I want to make a very technical point. There is a technical difference between morality and ethics, all right? And here it is. Morality refers to the mores, and those are just descriptions of whatever it happens to be that people are doing. All right? Whatever it is that they're doing, you describe what they're doing, that's morality. But ethics refers to the ethos and are prescriptions of what people should be doing. Okay? And that's very, very, very important. Because that is why from time to time, culture to culture, throughout history, morality is different. It is tentative, relative, intrinsic. It changes because it's just a description. Whatever people happen to be doing, that's morality. But ethics is absolute, and it is extrinsic and objective. And I'm using as many terms as I can, so hopefully somebody will pick up on one or two of them. But that's very important, and I'll give you an example. Here in the Southwest, we have people from a Spaniard ancestry who want to put up a statue of a conquistador because they see that person as a hero, right? Well, then the Native American community says, well, no, we don't want that statue up because they view that person as a villain, right? That's morality. Same person, two cultures, one sees him as a hero, one as a villain. They disagree morally. But look at the ethical level. You see how they're agreeing? Both cultures agree that heroism is to be praised and villainy is to be condemned. Okay, so you always got to think about that, the moral level and the ethical level. So now, one time I overheard my kids saying, we shouldn't lie. And I go, oh, why shouldn't we lie? And they said something like, because it's bad. Oh, yeah, okay, good point. Why is it bad? Because it's wrong. Yeah, true, it's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because it's a sin. Yep, that's definitely true. Why is it a sin? Because God said not to do it. Yes, you got it now. Why did God say not to do it? Because it's bad. I'm like, we already hit that one. So basically, I just kept, their tactic. Why? Until they didn't know what to say anymore. They thought they hit all the key words, right? Why? So why? Why? We shouldn't steal, lie, murder. We shouldn't do these things because God is not a liar. God is not a murderer. God is not a thief because God is holy. God is holy. And we have this idea that God can do anything. Well, God does those things that are in keeping with His nature, with His essence, with who He is. So since God is holy, He cannot do unholy things. And that is where His law comes from. It doesn't just come from Him inventing something. Oh yeah, do this, don't do that. No. You see, this is why it is key and important to recognize the revelation of the doctrine of the Trinity. Because it shows us that from all eternity, God is not a single person or a single being all alone and then decides, hey, I'm going to have a creation. Oh, now I have these things to interact with. I have to invent ideas of getting along or whatever it is, ethics. No. The doctrine of the Trinity tells us that from all eternity, God has been in a relationship that is free of conflict It's unified because God is one, but yet it is diverse, and it is a real interactive relationship because God is three persons. And that is where this concept of relationship comes from. And Romans tells us that in creation, we can see God's attributes. And what do you notice in creation? Everything is a relationship. There's chemical relationships. There's environmental relationships. There's human relationships. There's relationship with pets. There's all kinds of relationships going on everywhere in the universe. And they come forth from God's very nature and essence. And God is holy, and that's why it is a sin and bad and wrong. And he tells us not to do certain things and also to do certain things. And I'm done.